If you look closely, you can see Azula. We'll not take her out during filming. She will not be still enough. Hello, friends. I'm Literary Freak 11, and this is going to be one of the last times that I film in front of this bookshelf for a little bit because I'm going to be moving soon. So I'm going to have to pull all the books. However, I might film 2 videos now just so that I have the backdrop. I'm going to be updating you on how I'm doing on the Medieval-a-Thon challenges. So the first thing that I read in this month was Library of Fates, and this was a very fast read. I read it in a day, and this counts for the crown, which is read a book that has a fight for the crown. So basically this girl loses her kingdom and she has to run away, and it's about her adventures trying to save her kingdom. And so it wasn't as much a struggle for the crown as the summary led me to believe. However, that was the book that I picked, and you can't know everything going into a book, obviously. So I enjoyed it. It was good, but there were definitely parts that I kind of was like, ugh, blah, skip. And then there were parts that I really wish would have been fleshed out more and understood. However, I really enjoyed the mythology, and I enjoyed how everything kind of came full circle in the end. But yeah, I think I wished overall that it would have been longer because the ending felt rushed and certain parts in the middle felt rushed, but she definitely does have a good character arc. So I did like that about Amarita. And for the book Junkie trials, that also fulfilled Queendom's Stone, which was to read a book that features royalty. So I didn't realize that as a mage I could start early, and so I ended up just happening to read a book in those days, which was really nice, and that was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and I read that for Drowning Deeps, which is to read a book where the universe sucks you in. This is one of the few books on BookTube that you really can't find a bad review about, and it lived up to the hype for me 100%. I was a little bit slow at first, but I found myself still intrigued by the world, and normally I don't like flight academies at all, but I found this book to be so good, so I actually didn't read it this month, but I read it last month. For those little diversions, I actually did follow my team map. I read Turncoat for Orc Grove, which is to read a book that's gory, gritty, or gruesome, and that definitely happens to Dresden. Like, Jim Butcher does not leave things out. Things are gruesome. They're kind of in the middle of a war, so, and you know, he always puts himself in danger, especially for other people, and so you end up with a situation where he gets hurt a lot, and there's, you know, a lot of detail about it too. Someone's throat gets torn out in this book, so it definitely fit that prompt. And I also read this to win my axe, I believe, because it had mercenaries in it, and so that was the book that I read in order to get that weapon. Next book I read was Enchantée, and this was to get my red cloak because it has red on the dust jacket, and actually when you lift the dust jacket, the book is red. So I figured this fit the prompt, and it also fit the prompt for Glimmer, which was to read a book with a beautiful cover, and so I read this, and honestly, because there's no DNFing in this readathon, I pushed myself through it, but I honestly didn't enjoy it, and this is 100% a personal preference because I do not like reading stories where people gamble, and I will tolerate it if it's a side thing, but man oh man does it make me so angry. Like, it makes me irrationally angry to the point where it could ruin my day, because this book is, it kind of mentions it in the 3rd out of 4 paragraphs of the summary, but it is a massive part where this girl is using magic to kind of cheat so that she wins in gambling, and her sister, who are street urchins, become super, super rich because of it, but then all of these problems result. And yeah, I guess I liked the villain because he was super creepy, like grade A stalker creepy. And I really enjoyed the magic system, how there's kind of like magic over things and over yourself, like to change, but you can't change other people's appearance. And you could also imbue objects with magical properties. And so those are kind of the only, 3 things that you could do. Of course, there's like a lot of stuff that you could do within that, and it's very interesting. And I did enjoy the historical setting because the revolution is happening, and her dad used to be a printer for it until he was caught and then later died. So it was an enjoyable book. I've seen a lot of hype about it, and I definitely don't think it lived up to it. The next book that I finished was Serafina, and this book was for the Draconic Isles. Read a book featuring dragons, and of course Serafina is half dragon, and this is a book where dragons can take human shape, and so there was like a lot of class struggles. And I know that this was written before that was like a very common trope, but it makes me very happy that in my own book that I'm writing, I wanted magicians to be disappearing, and I wanted a way to do it without it being class struggle, because I just feel at that point that those are so overdone and you see it everywhere. But of course, this is a fairly old book. I did really, really enjoy a lot of aspects of it. I don't think that I feel the need to read the second because, again, it was one of those books that I might have DNF'd. There were some parts that I was like, whoa, I can't put this down, and there were some parts that I was like, can I please stop this now? And I think that I liked the universe. It was definitely very interesting, but it was not the best part of the book. And so then the other book that I'm about to finish is the Polar Bear Explorers Club, and so this indulgent read for the Book Junkie trials for the Empty Barrel Inn, and I thought like middle grade is fairly indulgent. It's not something that I would read a lot, but it's kind of something that you lap up very quickly. So again, this took me like a day to read, and I'm not quite done, but I'll be done with it by the end of today. And this is about this girl who goes on an expedition, and she's the first girl to do it, but her dad basically insists. He's pretty high-ranking in this club. They have some weird procedures and policies, but it's this fantasy world, and the wolves kind of get scared by something, and they end up separated from the group, and so they have to kind of survive, and also they want to explore because they want to get, accreditation for it, basically, within this club to be prestigious. And, it's like a cute middle grade read. I don't have that much to say about it. I do really like the universe, but there are, and I like the way that her dad kind of just takes in, she's adopted by her dad. Her dad kind of, takes in strays, and that includes her, but that also includes, a polar bear that was injured and couldn't survive in the wild, and then they have, all these mini dinosaurs, and there's, fairies and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of fantasy elements to it, and the world building is done really well because you're discovering these things as she is, so they don't know that much about the things that they're looking at, and so it's not like there's any forced mystery. You learn as they learn. So yeah, I would probably give it a 4 stars for a middle grade read. It was really cute. This book is for the sword because it has something pointy on the cover. I figure glaciers are pretty pointy, you could kill someone with an icicle. So I went with this for my book for the sword. I finished 2 audiobooks for the Book Junkie trials. The first one that I finished was Daughter of the Pirate King, and this is for Old Pirate Road, and I don't know why pirates have a road. That just seems weird to me. Like, shouldn't they have a port or something? Anyway, so I finished that, and it was honestly really enjoyable, like to the point where I would pick up the next one. But honestly, this book is so cute. I really, really liked the couple. I ship them. They're adorable together. And she's such a pompous ass, but you enjoy her for being a pompous ass so, so much. That being said, Trisha Levenseller creates characters that are Mary Sue's, and while the character Alosa, and I love that name, has some siren powers, and it's not a spoiler because if you look at the next book, you'll see it's called Daughter of the Siren Queen, so, you know, you can kind of figure it out pretty easily. She has these powers, but then she can also take on 3 men in a fight without them, which is not super realistic. There are, almost no women who can do it, and especially not 16-year-old women. And yes, women have, speed advantages, but she's also so cocky because she's so good. And again, she's a Mary Sue. And yeah, she's worked hard for these powers, but it's just not realistic. So there is this suspension of disbelief that in order to create strong female characters, Trisha Levenseller has put aside any semblance of realism. Honestly, again, I enjoyed it. I'll definitely be picking up the next one. The other book that I read was Stardust, which is, of course, the group book, and this is a re-listen for me, I guess. I had already listened to it earlier in the year, and I just remember how much that I love that ending so much more than the movie ending, which is like this massive fight scene, between him and Septimus and the witches, and it's just like, and I just like the way that the book ends so much better. There are certain things that I like that the movie does better, like it fleshes out their time on the airship so much more than the book does, and it's kind of like they hop on, it talks about it being Tristan's, like, happiest time of his trip, and you hear almost nothing about it, except it kind of summarizes it. There are definitely parts of his journey that are fairly rushed, because it does take a long time. However, this book, again, is so good. I mean, if you're also doing the Book Junkie trials, you will read it this month. But, highly recommend it. Neil Gaiman is just such a fabulous writer. The bird the slave woman that the witch has slips her chains in the movie is so boring. It's like, come on, the book, it's incredibly, incredibly clever. And so I don't see why they didn't do that. The next audiobook that I'm in the middle of, Beneath the Citadel, and it's basically people either losing all their every semblance of who they were or dying. So these 4 kids are trying to rebel because the Citadel is like these kind of rich people who are in power, and they end up getting free, only to be confronted by the chancellor or whatever, who has a proposition for them that they have to kill this monster beneath the Citadel and in exchange for their freedom. But he's like, hush hush, keep it under wraps, which I don't quite get how he's planning on keeping it under wraps and letting them go free unless he's also planning to kill them, but that's just my personal theory. Like I said, I'm in the middle of it, so I don't know how any of this is going to go down. But the other thing is they've met the monster under the Citadel, so they're like, who has told them should save him, and they're really not sure who to believe or what to do. So far, I'm really enjoying these characters. They're definitely a cast of 4 very unique characters, 2 boys, 2 girls, and I cannot say more beyond that, just that I loved it. And that is the book that I'm reading for Elvengard for the Book Junkie Trials. So as you can see, I've kind of taken on a lot this month. I am trying to read, I should say, all 17 books, and I have not made enough of them audiobooks. There is a chance that I will end up switching out the Subtle Knife, which is the second in his Dark Materials trilogy, for Daughter of the Siren Queen, because I just need another audiobook, and I feel like the rule that you can't change your TBR is only supposed to apply to your map quest, and it's a little bit more flexible after that. So we'll kind of see how this month goes. Unfortunately, the way that I've structured my books, I do have to read 168 pages a day in order to finish all 17 books. So wish me luck. That's all for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.